Alright, I'm going to show you how to replace the rod that runs through the middle of the pepper mill. There's different reasons you might need to replace it, but in this case I'm just showing you how to do it. So your pepper mill will be a ceramic grinder. It'll have a knob at the top, and you'll see two screws that hold the, this is the bottom plate. So those two screws hold that metal plate on. So to start off, we're just going to unscrew the top piece. Take the metal nut. I'll refer to this as the metal nut or top nut. And just take that off. Take your top of your pepper mill off. So now your pepper mill is open. Next thing we're going to do is unscrew both of these screws. They're pretty tiny. I just have a little tiny Phillips screwdriver here. So I like to put my thumb on the bottom plate so they don't pop out. Be careful not to strip these screws out. You're going to have to press in square to the screw and unscrew it. If you're slightly off, you will likely not grab and strip out the screw, so make sure you're square and press directly into it, into the head of the Phillips screw. So just keep unscrewing, take one off, one screw. They're just a tiny little screw. Go to the other side, same thing. Unscrew it. Pressing on the bottom plate now, it's going to pop open. So it's spring loaded once you unscrew those. You take off the bottom plate, set that aside. Whoops. Alright. My camera didn't work there. Sorry about this. Okay. Take everything out. So this rod contains, boy, I have to redo this. Sorry. So this rod, we now have a few pieces, and they're all on this rod. What we have to do is slide them off, take all these pieces off. It's okay, just keep them in a small pile. And I'm just going to go ahead and put everything back on this rod, but if you have to replace your rod, get the new rod, and we're going to start putting things onto it now. So the rod has two ends. One is kind of flanged out, and the top is threaded. So I'll refer to that as the flanged end and the threaded end. So taking our parts onto our new rod with the same parts that were in the mill, first part we're going to slide on is what is it? The ceramic grinder, the male end of it. The smaller piece that's white. You have two pieces. One's got like kind of a big circle. Not yet on that one. The little tiny one like this. Put that on first, and put it on so that it's tapered downwards. So this grinder tapered downwards, larger end going down. So pop that on your rod, slides to the bottom. Next thing we're going to do is put on the ceramic grinder female portion with the flat part, the wider part of this going to the bottom, putting that on a rod so it kind of sits, or the other part of the grinder sits inside of it. Next thing is our spring. That can just go on either direction is good, just like that. And then we're going to take this piece of, it's plastic guard is what it is for the outside. And that guard has two little nubs. We're going to put that on there with the nubs downwards and the rod through the center of the circle on top. And then at this point we're good. Just hold on to everything there like it's in that order. And to pop this back in the grinder, we're going to put the rod threaded portion up through the bottom of the grinder up to the top. So start at the bottom to the top, and then I like to hold on to it from the top piece with everything on the inside. Now flip it upside down, and you've got these two little flanges on the ceramic grinder and on the plastic guard. you're going to want to line those up. Have very good lighting here. So sometimes I like to get the plastic piece seated, and then the ceramic grinder, you see the knobs on it, line those up. So those are lined up, and inside those little notches, that's where we're going to screw. So you're going to want to line those notches up with the previous screw holes. Just because we're going to be screwing this by hand, we don't want to start a new hole. It might be too hard to do. So line them up with the previous holes that the screws were in before. And then I'm just holding it by the mill body upside down. I'm going to take my metal bottom plate, and that has 2 holes in it where the screws go in. I'm going to line those 2 holes up with my previous holes and the notches inside the grinder. And now it's spring loaded, so we just kind of center it with our hand and push it down so that it's seated at the bottom. So everything's lined up. I'm keeping it pressed in with my thumb. I'm going to grab another screw, and actually there's an easier way to do this, is if you take the top part of your mill and press, everything is spring loaded at the bottom, so press that in with your thumb while holding on the mill, and then place the top of the mill back on and take your top nut and screw that on. That's going to hold everything. It's not screwed in yet, but it's going to hold everything in place. So maybe loosen up the top nut a little bit, gives you a little more wiggle room to move things around, and line them up with their screws. If you can see that, I don't know if you can see, there's 2 holes at the notches. So now I'm going to take my bottom plate and screw it in. Make sure my screws are going into the previous holes. I don't have very good lighting in here. I can't see what I'm doing. Do this in somewhere you have good lighting. Okay. So I just hold on to the mill, and same thing, I want to screw that in square. I don't want to be off when I'm screwing it. I don't want to strip out that screw. So I got one done. And sometimes it can be a little difficult to get that screw to go in the hole, but make sure you're in the hole, the previous hole that is, before you start screwing it in. You don't want to try starting a new hole. I'm even struggling to get it angled in because I can't see. And when I'm tightening these screws, I don't need to over tighten them. Just get them seated all the way down and snug. So I've got the screws back in there, not stripped out. And now my grinder will work like normal. I adjust it from this top piece if I want more of a fine grind. I tighten that knob down. If I want a coarse grind, I loosen it. And as always, if it's ever too tight and doesn't want to spin, just loosen that top metal piece, and then it will spin for you. All right, hope that makes sense. Thank you.